Coming up next, the Bookening watches Ready Player One. Hey, welcome to the Bookening. My name is Nathan Alberson. I'm your humble, obedient host, Agent Provocateur, as I like to say now for some reason. I don't know whether I actually like to say it or not, but I sure do say it sometimes. And other times I don't. But I always say I'm your humble and obedient host. Now over there, right over there, going clockwise from me, we got a man.
A man.
A myth.
A myth.
A legend.
All of those things.
A man who's been a bit of a grouch lately on the Bookening.
I have.
He was the prosecutor in our last episode. He prosecuted old Ready Player One.
I am recording from inside a trash can today.
Reoccurring dream I had, which I think maybe I've talked about on cutscenes from the Bookening before, but I don't know if it's ever actually made it on. I used to have a reoccurring dream where Oscar the Grouch would be on a horse in his trash can. He'd ride up to me. I want to say that
I'm not sure I've ever heard this.
Grover? Not Grover. What was the guy's name? There was a man that lived on Sesame Street.
The African American?
Yes.
Was it Stan or something like that?
Something like that. Carl, I want to say. But
yeah.
I think he might have been on a horse too. But we'd go for horse rides, and a good time was had by all.
Huh.
Had that dream at least twice. Brandon Chastain, a man who would look very good on a horse. Even better if he was wearing a Napoleon hat.
No, thank you.
Don't you think Brandon would look good in a Napoleon
Absolutely.
hat?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I think of this.
Of the three of us in this room, I dare say Brandon would look the best in a big Napoleon hat.
We need a listener to comp that for us.
I think we need a listener to do a full-on oil painting.
An oil painting of Brandon
holding a kendo
on a white steed.
Yes.
In a Napoleon hat.
A Napoleon hat.
Hey, let's do it.
Yeah,
Gonna be firing my pistols though.
Let's make it happen, folks. He's a very Napoleonic gentleman. Not in that he's small and hates life and wants to conquer the world.
Have a complex.
Sometimes recently.
Yeah. Easy, Nathan.
But no, just because he can conquer the world. He's that powerful. He's like all the good things about Napoleon.
Wow.
What were the good things about Napoleon? He's smart. He thinks.
I'm sure there's many.
He's strategic.
He's an interesting character in War and Peace.
Character in War and Peace.
I always find a way to bring it back to Tolstoy, baby.
You sure do. That kind of backfired for you last episode.
It sure did. pretty badly. I listened to that.
And the reason for that backfire, sitting right over there, what kind of hat would Jake look good in?
Huh. That's a good question.
The ball cap.
Just a ball cap.
But the ultimate hat for Jake, I want to say a top hat. Let's make this guy even taller.
Top hat.
You know? Look like Jack Skellington or something.
Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln. Yeah, exactly.
He kind of had those Abe Lincoln rhetorical powers last week.
Yeah, he did. He was Abe Lincoln.
He did, yeah.
You were Frederick Douglass.
Stephen Douglas.
Stephen
Douglas, yeah.
Yeah. The Southerner racist.
Jacob Menzel, he's a pastor, he's a master of reading, he's a fine gentleman, much beloved by Bookening listeners, by Sound of Sanity listeners, by parishioners at Clearnote Church, by his family, others, and et al., really. Is there a man that's ever met Jake Menzel and hasn't loved him?
Yes.
We met some guys at Barnes & Noble's the other day. They took to Jake right away.
Yeah, that's fun.
So, Jake, I'm sorry, folks, if you can hear the lack of energy in my voice. I'm happy to be here. Always excited to talk about Ready Player One. Always excited to do the Bookening with my good friends, Brandon and Jake. But it's just been a kind of a long day. I don't know. This is not my first podcast today, folks. And podcasts take energy.
Yeah.
What kind of hat should I wear, guys? What kind of hat what would be the ultimate Nathan hat?
The ultimate Nathan hat. I think a big, Elizabethan crown.
Like what the king would wear?
Yeah,
like a crown?
Like a king
I was thinking more like the soldiers at Buckingham Palace, you know?
Oh, that would be a good hat.
With a big, like, Russian poofy.
Yeah, big Russian.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like a Kazakh.
A Kazakh.
A Kazakh. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, there we go.
A Kazakh.
If somebody wants to do a painting of Jake in a top hat, and a painting of me in a Kazakh, and a painting of Brandon in a Napoleon hat, then
I think I'm going to get the best painting here.
There's no question about that.
Well, I imagine Jake like just looking around, like doing something kind of cool and city-like,
Putting on the Ritz.
Yeah, putting on the Ritz.
Like Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly. And what am I wearing? Oh, I'm wearing a kazakh, so I'm just going to be looking grouchy in the cold somewhere.
Manly in the cold. Manly in the cold.
Well, guys, let's do some donor shout-outs. We have actually got some new donors to shout out today, at least one new donor.
Nice.
Happy we are to do it. Now, new donor, we don't always record all these episodes in order, so you may hear some episodes after this where you're not shouted out. And
you will, in fact, hear every Remains of the Day episode.
Yes.
Without being shouted out.
That is very true.
Those haven't been released yet, have they?
No, they haven't.
Oh, for some reason I thought they had.
Let's do it in the order that results in us saying the new person last.
Let's do it.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. This is just be a classic, clean. We've done some rather silly donor shout outs lately, but this is just going to be a classy one because I'm all about the class. So let's just start with Professor X.
Professor X.
Thank you for your support, Professor X. We truly love you. Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds, Brandon.
Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds.
Eric and Catherine,
Nathan.
the Lovebirds. Nathan, not me, Jake.
Nathan, not Nathan.
Benny and Deanna Tiberius, Brandon. The Lovebirds.
Benny? Is that what you said?
No, yeah.
Benjamin, or does he go by Benny? We never called him Benny
He goes
before.
by Benny today.
Hey, Benny.
Hey, Benny.
And Dana Tiberius.
Benny
the
and-
Lovebirds.
The Lovebirds, yeah. Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Maya.
This is supposed to be classy. Maya.
Sorry.
Hey, Maya.
Hey, Maya.
How's it going, Maya? Good. Hi, Maya. Hello.
My beloved Mother Beth.
Nathan's beloved mother Beth.
John and Jill, the Lovebirds.
John and Jill, the Lovebirds. And little baby Max.
And little baby Max. Yes, thank you for remembering little baby Max. Robert and Rhonda, the Lovebirds.
Robert and Rhonda, the Lovebirds.
The inscrutable Jenny Z.
The inscrutable Jenny Z.
Andrew and Esther, the Lovebirds. Oh, sorry. Andrew, did I look at the wrong person?
You did.
Yes, I'm sorry. Andrew and Esther, the Lovebirds.
Andrew and Esther, the Lovebirds.
All right. Oh, man, I don't know what to say about this lady. She seems like a nice lady. She's giving us money, so I'm happy about that. Her name is Lily. Her name is Lily, Brandon.
Of the Valley.
Of the Valley. Do you think she'd like to go by Lily of the Valley on the Bookening?
I don't know.
Is that a good appellation for her? Lily the
I'm not
Appalachian
sure. I don't
Valley?
know that I know anything about this Lily. She may be offended by that.
Yeah, she may be.
She seems like a classy gal. I mean, she's giving us money, so that'd be a pretty big clue as to her class.
Classy Lily.
Lily of the Valley.
There we go.
Lily of the Valley. All right, well, Lily of the Valley, thank you for supporting us. Somebody should shout her out. Whose turn is it to shout out Lily of the Valley?
Lily of the Valley.
Lily of the Valley. Brandon, why don't you shout out Lily of the Valley?
Lily of the Valley.
All right, thank you,
All of
Lily.
us.
You're a credit to women and whatever else you are.
Flowers.
Flowers. Yes, you're
Flowers.
a flower among ladies. A flower among our patrons.
You love East of Eden?
Yeah.
We love you.
You got good taste, Lily.
Yep.
So thank you for supporting us, Lily of the Valley. All right, guys, that's donor shout-outs. Now today, as we know, it's the Lookening. We're going to talk about movies. Been talking about a lot of movies lately. Me and Jake and the larger Warhorn universe. All we do is talk about movies. It feels like. All right. Well, Ready Player One, fellas. We saw the movie. We went. We purchased our tickets. We walked in the theater. The film was projected on a screen.
Yep.
We watched it. It was entertaining, or was it? What did we think? There were some sound issues with this screening, and I think they have made the movie less enjoyable. Actually, that's my baggage for the movie. Is that the sound was weirdly mixed, like something
From the top.
from the beginning
From
of
the very
movie.
beginning, it was really,
Just quiet.
yeah, it's pretty lame.
Yeah.
And then they ended up cutting the sound off right, at the end.
During the big emotional speech at
Kind
the
of,
end,
yeah,
the sound just
final
went out
cathartic.
for a little bit. The lights came on early. It was the audience cackled and booed and all that kind of stuff. So
Did any of us try for a refund?
it was too late. I mean, we probably could have gotten one, but I just didn't feel like putting the energy into it. Plus, I use Movie Pass, so who cares, I guess. But
Yep.
Yeah.
so we saw this movie, Ready Player One.
We saw it.
What'd you guys think about Ready Player One, the movie?
It was fun. It was fine.
Not blown away by it, huh?
I wasn't blown away by it. I had my hopes up for it to be a magical Spielbergian experience, and it
You did not have a magical
it
Spielberg.
did not have a magical Spielbergian experience.
Well, why didn't you have a magical Spielbergian experience, Jake?
Because it wasn't a magical Spielbergian movie.
You would have. Where did Spielberg drop the ball?
It just wasn't.
Maybe that's a hard question to answer. Maybe
It
just
is
didn't
a
have
hard
that je ne
question.
sais quoi or whatever.
That's what I said to you in the parking lot, because that's the only way I can sort of articulate it. Like there are decisions that were made that I wonder if. Well, what I missed, I was telling somebody tonight, my two favorite parts of the movie were the dumb billboard ads and stuff in the background that were playing futuristic type ads, like what you would have seen in Minority Report or in Back to the Future 2. Mm-hmm. Those are the kinds of details that kind of make things fun and feel like a cool Spielberg movie, just sort of background details. And then there are a lot of references, but there wasn't anything that really hit me in the nostalgic feels.
Right.
You know, like nothing that connected.
I will say I thought it was a mistake on Spielberg's part not to just embrace using his own filmography, which he does a little bit, but he should have used it more. Because really, when I think the 80s, I think Spielberg, and not having that in there hurt it, I thought.
Was there an E.T.?
Not that I saw, but see, so many of the references were just crammed
in.
You're going to have to be like Wade Watts in your basement watching the film frame by frame to catch all the references.
Yeah.
You know, so the other favorite scene part that I had was the Zemeckis cube, but that's only because it was an excuse to pull the Back to the Future music in.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back and discuss some of these things, but let's get Brandon's overall take on the movie.
My overall take on the movie. Just my general...
Your general feelings, Brandon.
I didn't like it. Yeah. What I appreciated about the movie, and we'll talk more about this later, I'm sure, is the fact that I think the movie was trying to fix what was wrong with the book. So here's my thesis statement. You want my thesis statement?
Absolutely.
Here's my thesis statement about this movie.
So Jake's thesis statement, just to be clear, is the movie was okay, but it just didn't have that Spielberg magic.
Yeah, I just didn't have it. I don't know how to put my finger on it.
It didn't quite live up to the Spielbergian magic.
Okay, and then your thesis statement is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It didn't have that. It never hit that nostalgia.
Yeah, I just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm with you there. So my thesis statement. We watched this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm with you
and,
so far.
Yeah, we saw it with our eyes.
We can prove that thesis
We didn't read it.
We've got
we watched
photographic
it.
evidence.
So kind of like the book, I found myself enjoying parts of the movie. So when you're done reading something or you're done watching something, there's like a general, it's like taste. It's like a taste in your mouth. But it's in your brain. I don't know how to describe it, but you either like it or you didn't like it. And I didn't like it.
Okay.
And so I thought a lot about why I didn't like it. I think I appreciate Spielberg because what Spielberg wanted to do was fix what was wrong with the book. And in trying to fix what was wrong with the book, he just proved that Ernest Cline's universe was poorly imagined and unworkable. That's my thesis statement.
So you're just like...
I'm taking the strong stance, but that makes for a more interesting thesis statement.
You're just like against that you're just using this episode as another excuse to beat up more on the book.
But that's, yeah. That's what it did for me, so...
That's fair.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Okay.
My thesis statement was the movie was awesome. It had cars and...
King
Kong, and
it did have the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
The T-Rex and Chuck.
What was that thing that blew up and killed Nostromo or whatever his name was?
Nostromo, yeah. I never did figure that out. But do you know what that was?
The holy hand grenade?
No, what did she throw into Mechagodzilla to blow
No,
it
I
up?
didn't know.
It was like a green tomato or an angry tomato.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know what it was.
It was a reference to something.
Yeah, I'm guessing it probably was, given the nature of the movie. I actually, I was being a little ironic there, folks. I don't know. It wasn't like the best movie ever. I think I might have enjoyed it more than you guys did. I definitely enjoyed it more than Brandon did because he said it left a sour taste in his mouth and he didn't like it. But I think I enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than Jake did. I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed it. I did not think that it captured that Spielberg magic. At all, really. I mean, it didn't give you the feeling of watching an old Amblin entertainment. I don't want to be this simplistic, but for me, some of that's just it being a computer-generated movie. Like, there's something very tactile about those old movies that's just hard to get in a computer-generated world. That might be too easy of an answer for why it didn't have that magic.
Yeah,
but for me...
Jurassic Park has that magic, right?
Yes. Well, and then Jurassic World, I think, had less of that magic because the dinosaurs... I don't have a problem with CGI. I usually like it, but...
Well, Jurassic Park is the only one of those movies that had that magic. So
yes, agreed. Even the Spielberg-directed second one didn't really have it. Yeah. So
I would say is that the last one that's had the Spielberg magic?
Jurassic Park?
And Saving Private Ryan technically didn't have the Spielberg magic.
No. Had some quality filmmaking, but not a lot of magic. I liked Spielberg's War of the Worlds pretty well, actually. And
Did you see the... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Did you see the BFG?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Did that have the Spielberg magic?
Minority Report.
Yes.
Yes, Minority Report.
But War of the Worlds is sent after Minority Report, right?
Yeah,
in terms of
it came later, but I'm not. I mean, I saw War of the Worlds. I don't remember thinking it was special in the same
So Minority Report might be your answer to the question for what's the most recent movie to have
Spielberg magic.
the kind of the Spielberg feeling to it.
I think that's probably my answer.
And which is, what is the Spielberg magic? Just
Indiana Jones.
yeah.
I think the Spielberg magic
E.T.
is, we should define, if we're going to talk about Spielberg magic,
Yeah.
we better define our terms here, fellas. What is the Spielberg magic? When I think of Spielberg magic, I think of the camera zooming in on someone's face slowly as wonder or terror, usually wonder though, sweeps over their face and there's a shining light. And then we cut to their point of view and we see some majestic or awe-filled, or whether it's the Ark being opened or it's spaceships and Close Encounters, or whether it's E.T. getting back on his ship, it's the slow zoom in on the character. That's what I think of when I think of Spielberg magic. I don't know whether that answers the question of what is Spielberg magic.
You know what I think of? I think of dumb things like E.T. turning to chase Yoda. I know maybe that's a dumb thing because it's just a little comedic bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you might be right.
There's a warmth to his storytelling too.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good storyteller. That's part of it, is he knows how to spin a yarn.
Yeah.
And the pacing is good, and you're not expecting some deep philosophical insight into the world.
Mm-hmm.
At least not until you get to Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List,
Right.
which do actually have some pretty good deep philosophical insights into the world. But even Saving Private Ryan is still, it's a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Like even with Jaws, it's you have the close up of the sheriff's face, and then you see the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I'm with you there. So there's some cinematic things that he does with the details, but also there's just he loves the story he's telling.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite analogy for Spielberg is I think he's the modern day Dickens, in the sense that he's willing to be sentimental and cheesy if it helps tell his story
Yes.
better. And it's not this. So Tim Burton kind of tried to do that with Alice in Wonderland,
I never saw
and
it.
he kind of failed.
Yeah.
But Spielberg can just, he can feed you what's kind of cheesy and goofy. There's a lot of goofiness to the Indiana Jones movies, but you go along with it because he's such a good storyteller.
It's such a fun ride.
Yeah, it's a fun ride.
It's the magic of, I went to Disney World in Orlando when I was a kid, and honestly, all I remember about it are the Spielberg things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember sitting and watching the Indiana Jones, that whole Indiana Jones production.
Stunt show kind of thing.
Stunt show kind of thing. And I remember that.
And there's a sense of wonder, like you were saying. So if I think back to my childhood, like watching E.T., you think about the flashlight and going out into the cornfields. You think about the Reese's Pieces and him coming in.
It's very tactile images that are used to kind of create, that sense of wonder and
The bicycle,
the familiarity
riding
too. Like Elliot is what kid can't identify with Elliot?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. His character, and that's another thing with Spielberg it is kind of Dickensian too, in the sense that his characters can be a little bit one-dimensional, but also fully realized.
Right.
Yeah, so
And we're going to see that with Dickens. Dickens does the exact same thing, and I don't know how they do it, but they do it really well.
The Goonies is a good example of that. Like every character in the Goonies is just a one-dimensional
One trait.
stock character. Yeah, they have one trait, one thing about them, but they all work together in a really fun, cool way.
Yeah.
And as a kid, it's like, oh, he's cool because of this. Oh, he's cool because of that. Oh, he's cool because of that. Like
The same thing with Indiana Jones.
and you can use it to typecast your friends or yourself, or
Yeah.
and the same with Indiana Jones.
With the last one, the Grail. Not the Grail. Yeah, it was the Grail.
Well, the last good one.
Yeah, The Last Crusade. But The Last Crusade, it's really fun. It's one-dimensional with Indiana Jones's character and Sean Connery's character. But it's still a really fun interplay with son and dad.
I watched that recently, and I honestly think it might be one of Sean Connery's best performances ever.
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah, it's his best performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's perfect as Indiana Jones's dad.
It's like
He has that sort of regalness in that first scene where he's in the Grail Diary.
Yeah.
But then he also, so it's
Plays the doofusy, dorky, airheaded.
and it's exactly how this movie failed with one of its major characters. Because typically there's a consistency, so Spielberg can do that with a character like Sean Connery's Indiana Jones's dad, and it still feel like the same character.
Right.
But there was a major misstep in this movie, in that actually the major villain starts out one way and then he kind of goes another way, and it feels really inconsistent, like he's not the same character.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, the thing about Sean Connery in that movie,
He should have cast Sean Connery as Ogden Morrow.
Yeah, he probably should have. But I think Sean Connery's retired, maybe?
He is. He retired after the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I guess he just wanted to go out on a high note. The thing that's illuminating about Sean Connery versus the villain, since you brought it up, Brandon, is that Sean Connery in that movie in Last Crusade is pretty goofy dad character, but then he has these moments, like when he slaps him for blasphemy.
Oh, yeah.
Where he just summons this real kind of authority and you feel it. And it does. The performance all feels of a piece. It feels like one character that you can believe in, even though it's kind of a cartoonish conceit for a character.
Yeah, when he's scooting the seagulls with his umbrella.
That's the
Yeah.
But
That's
it all
Sean
works.
Connery's finest moment,
Right.
in all of acting, right there.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then he gets his little say-in at the end when he brings up the fact that he was named after the dog.
Yeah, no, it's all...
You were named after the dog.
When I think about I'll finish the one point, which is that this villain, they actually try and give him some dignity at the very end, and you can feel Spielberg saying, we need to give this guy some dignity, so they actually give him a moment. I guess I can spoil it. We're going to do spoilers in this, folks, if you're not used to that on the Bookening already. He comes and he's going to shoot Wade Watts, and Wade's just found the egg and won the game, and the villain has a moment where you just like linger on his face and you see, oh, he gets it. This is kind of cool, like whatever. It's giving the villain back some dignity, but that's right after they literally have a scene where the villain gets kicked in the testicles, and it just doesn't feel like the same movie, the same performance,
it's
the same.
really weird.
And it had a whole cartoonish chase where nobody can get these people.
Yeah, they can send drone. I mean, it's just a lot of dumb. They can send drones to go blow up a stack of trailers. They can't find this really distinctive looking RV.
Yeah.
And then when they do, they have their big Hummers and they can't knock it off the road, or they can't do anything. They can't take a drone and plant a bomb on it.
Yeah.
They can't.
The bad guys in this movie are like Home Alone villains or something.
Yeah,
They're
it's
that
like Home
ineffectual.
Alone.
Yeah, they are kind of like the
Villains.
Sticky Bandit.
Right. They're scary just long enough
the wet
until
bandits.
the kids do something cool and defeat them every time. And it's...
Which, I mean, the Goonies villains are kind of that way.
They are, but it works in the Goonies because that's the tone of that
right.
story.
These
Yeah.
villains are kind of supposed to be scary in their way.
Yeah, because the tone of this story is what they were wanting to do is they were wanting to convince you that there was a Matrix-style world outside of the Matrix that was depressing and scary to live in, with these loyalty farms or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And with this corporation that's trying to take over the world and kind of has, and it's this scary dictatorship, and that there's a rebellion that's worth being a part of. And so they set that background, and I was kind of excited. I'm like, oh, this is going to kind of be cool. It's going to be like Children of Men, you know, that whole, there's high stakes involved. Have you seen Children of Men?
Yeah.
Do you like Children of Men?
It's great.
It's great, yeah. But the problem is like in Children of Men, with just a few scenes, they manage to convince you that this world is as horrible as it is. And it's the visuals of like the abandoned buildings and the people being just shuffled off like cattle and stuff in that movie.
Yeah.
And you get this fully realized world, and we're like, yeah, okay, there's stakes involved here. Or with the Matrix, you know, you've realized that there's something at stake here. But with this world, it just it's so thin, and in the book, it's even thinner. You're not quite convinced that whatever has happened before this point was bad enough to get us here. You're not convinced that the corporation, is it IOI?
Yes.
Is bad enough to actually be the threat they are.
Well, there's weird things like you see a pizza being delivered by drone in the very first scene of the movie, and it's like, okay, I guess this city actually is kind of cool. You can get pizza delivered. Like, there's just this weird inconsistency. You never get that one solid brushstroke that just tells you this is exactly what this world's like. This is what the stakes
This is
are.
how bad it is.
Instead, you just get some exposition.
I was really counting on, from the book, Wade infiltrates IOI headquarters and gets himself in debt slavery or whatever. And
Right.
does some awesome things to take down whatever. I was expecting the whole weight of the movie to hinge on those dramatic points. And the more the trailer started to show, the more I thought, oh, did they take that whole thing out? Because I thought that would be the thing.
Yeah.
It really made it
be
at
like,
home. And then they flipped it over and gave some of that work to Artemis. It didn't do the work.
You didn't feel the risk.
Yeah.
To be fair,
it didn't feel like you were invading the Death Star.
No, it
which is
didn't.
what I think it was supposed to feel like.
It didn't. I thought that the cubes that they were worked in were scary, and the way that she was kind of chained, her mask was stuck
she couldn't
on.
get it off.
That was effectively.
That's fine, but the whole movie had those little small details, but it never congealed into.
No, it didn't.
And so that's why I think that what this movie they were trying to add this rebellion. They saw the fact that this movie was just basically a ripoff of The Matrix, and
The Matrix meets Willy Wonka, I believe.
Yeah, okay. But they realized, so Spielberg being smart and his screenwriters being smart realized they needed to add some more stakes.
Mm-hmm.
There needed to be some flesh to the world outside of the Oasis. And they needed to not just assume that the virtual reality world was okay. Like this was a good thing to lose yourself in the virtual reality.
Right.
Which is something the book just sort of elides. It just kind of glides over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
pretty clear Klein thinks this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it wants to deal with all the issues the book should have dealt with.
It's equally clear that Spielberg doesn't think it's cool, and that he has an ambiguous at best relationship with the fact that he's responsible for creating kind of this world, and he wants to.
But that's exactly what any responsible storyteller is going to feel.
Right.
Is the conflict there, right? And so if the universe that you create has to be fully realized, and that's the difficulty with sci-fi, is if you don't have that fully realized world, all it becomes is just a very cheap, thin palette to sort of do some drawings on. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think Ernest Cline has done. And I do think he's a narcissist, and I do think the story is very narcissistic in the sense that all he wanted to do, and you lose it in this book because Spielberg he has to appeal more to us by giving us more pop culture. At least the one thing that does work in the book is the fact that it's all about Halliday, and Halliday's a stand-in for Ernest Cline, and Ernest Cline's obsession with the 80s. So that deep trivia that's essential to how difficult the egg hunt is in the book works in the book. As much as I don't like it, that part works.
None of the puzzles in the movie are plausible. Like, there's no way that you and me and Jake, there's no way we wouldn't figure out those puzzles if we were...
Right.
Everybody knows that Stephen King hated The Shining.
Yeah, I mean, that's just... Yeah.
There was nothing surprising about any of those puzzles. It was just really disappointing. And so they changed that element, lost that. So the one thing that kind of worked about the book, because it was the one real reflection of Ernest Cline's narcissism, fell apart in the movie when Spielberg tried to fix it. And so...
You can feel Spielberg trying to fix a lot of stuff.
He was trying to fix it, and I respect him for that. He realized that he was handed a bad deck of cards here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how he acted.
No.
I mean, I know you have
maybe he
PR
doesn't
pushes and crap like that. They sure made it sound like he wanted this project. He picked this project.
Yeah.
He was excited about this project.
And it could have just been a misstep on his part then.
It could be. I tend to think Spielberg is nothing if not a great businessman. He's the kind of person, if he's doing a project, he's going to talk it up. I mean...
Yeah, but he's also a great businessman, and he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do.
Yeah. I think he probably really did. What I got the sense just in reading interviews with him that he actually thought that the book was a cool world, that he really wanted to deal with the dilemma of virtual reality, that he does think this is basically the future. Like, he sees this as being not in his lifetime, maybe not even in our lifetime, but he sees it as being a real, basically, thing, which is interesting. I don't know what I think about that, but I think Spielberg actually does think he's giving you a plausible version of what...
Which, you know what? 20 years ago, it would have been. Mm-hmm. But we actually have virtual reality and nobody cares.
Right.
Google gives out, they do their Google Glass. Nobody cares.
To be fair to Spielberg, he sure did nail the predictions on Minority Report. That's a pretty amazing movie to watch.
Minority Report in some ways became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, maybe it's possible. I don't know. This is kind of Inception-y, but it's possible that maybe he just wanted to sabotage the appeal of... That's a dumb thing.
He intentionally made a bad movie. That's a good.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's probably what he's doing.
Well, I want to come back to what the idea of. And I'm sorry, folks. This is a late recorded after a long day podcast, so we might be a little bit all over the place, but hopefully we'll get everything covered here. I want to come back to the idea of what actually makes the Spielberg magic, because I think Jake was onto it when he said those. What did you say? You said the details or something like that.
It's the detail. Or at least in his day, he had a real knack for including just the right little details that just went the extra mile.
Yeah.
To either make things feel real or suspenseful or tangible or relatable.
I think maybe the real word is, what did you say? Did you say the right word, the last one?
Tangible.
What was the last word you said when I started to talk?
Tangible.
Did you say relatable?
Yes, I did say relatable.
Yeah, I think what it actually is simply, maybe put, is relatable. Indiana Jones punches out a Nazi so he can steal his disguise, which is something we've seen in a million movies. Steven Spielberg goes the extra mile and thinks, gee, if you did that, maybe the jacket wouldn't fit. Like, you might not necessarily punch the first guy you punch out to steal his costume so you can sneak into the thing. That's the kind of detail that Spielberg in his heyday was always. Joke. It's a funny joke, but it's also just like it suddenly makes Harrison Ford into more of a human being and less of an unrelatable hero god character. And the movie is just full of things like that.
Well, Indiana Jones is just like, when we were talking about it earlier and I started to go talk about Disney World, it feels just like you're on some kind of thrill ride at a theme park or something like that.
Right.
And there are always those moments. He's always gonna, and it's got these little motifs that, his hat's gonna fall off and he's gonna have to do something really risky to get it back. He's got to find a way to use that whip. They're gonna be snakes and it's gonna be,
And he doesn't like snakes. And the one I always think of, this isn't necessarily relatable, but it's just going the extra mile. The crate that the Ark of the Covenant is held on has the Nazi insignia, the swastika
burns
on it,
out.
and it burns off.
Yep.
And it's just like, what other filmmaker would think to just include that little...
It's just the detail
moment
that gives you that sense that, whoa, there are otherly powers at work here, and there's good and evil, and and that's it's just those kinds of things that really,
and it is it's in all the best of his movies.
I
mean, in Jurassic Park, it's the water trembling. The T-Rex is approaching.
That the water trembling makes that whole scene. I mean, the T-Rex is terrifying thing from my childhood, but what makes that scene is the anticipation of the water trembling, the build up,
and then the door handle turning with the velociraptors in the kitchen.
It's the door handle. It's Elliot using Reese's Pieces in E.T., a candy that I remember that I liked in my childhood that I haven't eaten since then, probably. It's the Star Wars toys in E.T. It's
the certain toys that are either in the closet with E.T. or the wig or the little action figures, and
that suddenly just rocket you back to your own childhood and place you in that time. Or even if it's not your childhood, it places you in Steven Spielberg's childhood and makes you...
So you can relate to the story,
specific, concrete details.
So how does it work in Jaws?
In Jaws, it is... Well, for one thing, it's the horror of the Skinny Dipper drowning at the beginning and saying, help me, and it goes on forever, and it's done in a really relatably horrifying way.
The child getting eaten.
But that Skinny Dipper says things like, it hurts. Like, who thinks Spielberg's actually understanding her pain and making it terrifying in a way that it really would be for a person getting pulled under by a shark. It's things like that. It's the...
And it's not so much that it's like realistic in the somebody would actually say that sense. It's just he's storytelling.
He's giving you an emotional or a narrative hook.
Yeah.
Whether it's visual or audio or whatever.
It's just that, again, going that extra mile. And you would see, a lot of people would see it as being over the top, but he's just doing just a little bit extra work for you.
Mm-hmm. It's what we expect from good storytellers. We've talked about it before, how some people lack it, lack the ability.
Yes, we have. I mean, but it's what we like in people like Steinbeck, for example.
Yeah,
there's just a generous wealth of detail.
I think it's what you see in every good storyteller. Anybody who has the ability to tell a story. That's just like we're going to see it with Homer. Wine dark sea, Athena's gray eyes.
The when we talk about the Odyssey, I mean, we'll get to it, but the wealth of specific, relatable human detail. What I actually thought when I was reading Homer is, wow, this guy was actually doing what Spielberg and some of these guys do.
It's just it's necessary to that sort of story. Yeah. You have to have those things that can make it. The word tangible is also one of the is a right word too.
Yeah.
You want it to be tangible. You want to be able to feel this world, but you want to be. So I don't know. With the wine dark sea, there's just a whole vivid imagery that comes up with that. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite details of all literary history. It's just
I love the wine dark sea.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
Yeah,
it's wine but it's also the danger, the blood to it, and it's just so many imageries that come up just because of that one detail. And so if you're thinking about these things in Spielberg, it's the same. It kind of works like metaphor, symbol, stuff like that. But
which is why the two things that I latched onto the movie, that they're not plot. I'm a pretty plot oriented guy, but the two things that I latched onto that I liked, and they weren't even that well done, but it was just like this is the closest it gets to kind of recreating that, that the Zemeckis Cube thing where, and it was just the excuse to use the music as things started rewinding. That music is awesome.
Yeah, Back to the Future is awesome.
Back to the Future is awesome.
They hold up.
Do they? I haven't seen them in a long time.
I saw the Western one. I didn't really think that one held
The
up.
first one holds up.
The first one is pretty great.
I haven't seen them all. I saw the rest of them recently is what I meant. Well, as somebody that grew up watching The Shining, so spoiler alert,
I
there's
have
an
never
extended
seen The Shining.
So maybe
I hadn't seen it.
Neither one of you guys has seen The
Yeah.
Shining. So if you had seen and especially if you'd grown up with The Shining, that was pretty cool and evocative.
That was a fun scene because it was fun to see H be so scared. That was
right. And if you knew the movie and knew the beats of the movie like I did, it's like, okay, blood's going to come out of the elevator and now the old hag's going to be. So that was actually, you could feel Spielberg's love for Stanley Kubrick, love for The Shining, love for cinema in general. That scene actually, for a lot of people, maybe not for you guys specifically, but it did
that
the
probably
work.
did the work for
Did the
most
work
people.
you're talking
And
about.
if people thought it was special, it was because of that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah,
That didn't do it for me, but that's just,
I'm guessing the car
Luck of
race
the
at
draw
the
or
beginning was a reference to some car race game.
Well, a lot of those vehicles. So let's see. You had Mad Max's car. You had Back to the Future car. What was H driving? Was H's something from
Tron. Wasn't it a Tron?
That big H was in like a big
H.
rig. Not she was in Tron. Yeah, she was definitely Tron.
Sorry. H looked like a Mad Maxy type thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think it was Mad Max. I don't know. Because Mad Max's actual car was in there, as was the old 1960s Batmobile. And
I like the nod to the Iron Giant, but I wish they had done more with it.
yeah. Well, Jake said after the movie that was one of the places where he was waiting to feel some emotion because he loves the Iron Giant.
Yeah, that's what, if you're going to put the Iron Giant in there.
You're stupid not to make it emotional.
Well, what he turned it into a Terminator moment instead of an Iron Giant moment.
And I
don't know.
completely
There's a whole lot of emotional capital with the Iron Giant there that you could have played with.
Yeah. You almost want to see him get blown to smithereens and then come back together like he does. I don't know what they would have done.
Anything. Some kind of Superman moment.
Right.
And all he would have had to do is have Mega Godzilla jump up into the air and, open his mouth and strike the Superman pose as you dive into the mouth or something all you would have had to do is
Right.
but something like that was just and get blown to bits and see pieces start to roll or what. I don't know
what it would have been.
I don't know what it would
there
have
could
been
have been
either.
something.
That's probably the dumbest idea or version of it, but they made so much of the Iron Giant being in it that he set up an expectation for paying off some of your Iron Giant nostalgia. Part of why we either consciously or subconsciously picked Iron Giant is because of Ready Player One for Sound of Sanity at the movies.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I was happy. I'd never seen the Iron Giant. And
The Iron Giant is by far the better movie.
than Ready Player One. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Iron Giant's just I think
Iron
awesome
Giant's
movie.
my opinion on Iron Giant. One of the best kids movies. One of the best animated movies.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think I need to let it settle before I decide where it belongs in the canon or
It's
whatever.
really good.
but
It's right up there with Pixar's movies.
It was really good. I cried.
Best of Pixar. Oh yeah, I cry every time at that last
Every
scene.
time.
Yeah.
Superman.
Super. Gonna cry now.
I know. It's just, you can think about it. Just think about it and get teary. I get misty every time I think about that whole thing. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
He did a great job of telling that story.
And every movie that has that trope wants to capture that same
movie
moment.
has a lot of the same kind of touch. Spielberg. I mean, like a lot of what's to like about that movie. Are
it's
those
got a lot of
little
nods to Spielberg.
Spielbergian
Yeah.
touches.
Well, when we did our Sound and Sanity episode and we talked about pure cinema and all the kind of the ways the movie's visually storytelling, Steven Spielberg's a master of just evoking emotions with simple visual shot juxtaposition of doing things like we talked about in that episode of Sound of Sanity.
So why didn't he do that? Why didn't we get that?
I just don't think he cares. I mean, honestly, I just don't think he's interested. I think he wants to make the post. I think he wants. Now, to be clear, I did actually enjoy this movie, but I think he wants.
I will
to
never watch The Post. I don't care about The Post.
Well,
He wants to make his prestige project.
yeah, he wants to make Munich. He wants to make Lincoln, which I thought Lincoln was great, by the way.
Yeah, I was about to say. I've heard that
I liked Lincoln.
as far as seeing Spielberg's genius, as far as like you were saying, the technicalities of cinema, I've heard that Lincoln is what you should see.
Yeah, it was really good. I thought it was good. I don't know. I just don't think. I read something somewhere in preparing for this that I thought was helpful, which is they said you can categorize all Spielberg movies based on when he actually became a father. They say everything changed and kind of the Spielberg that we love kind of started to go away around the time. Now, I'm not sure exactly when he married what's-her-face, the lady from Temple of Doom, and started having kids, or whether maybe she even brought some kids with her. I don't know what his personal history is. But what they say is all of Steven Spielberg early movies are about his childhood and him processing his childhood. So whether it's E.T. or Indiana Jones, whether it's him pretending to be a hero or him pretending to be just saying what it's like to be a kid, that's all his early movies. And then at a certain point, all his movies become about being a father. So even Jurassic Park is...
Yeah, Alan Grant.
Alan Grant is a father. So Ready Player One is kind of by that standard. I haven't actually thought it through. War of the Worlds is about Tom Cruise being a father.
Right.
Minority Report is all about fathers and disappearing kids, and it's all filtered through.
Yeah.
If there's any kind of emotional anchor to the movie, it's parenthood. Ready Player One doesn't have that, actually. So maybe there just wasn't that emotional hook that Spielberg actually cared about. Insofar as he does...
The Oasis and Halliday are the father of that.
Right, and that's where you can tell Spielberg's heart kind of is. Like, he gives time and space to the scenes with that Mark Rylance guy with Halliday.
Well, he really likes Mark Rylance.
Yeah,
He's worked with him a lot.
Yeah.
But you could... that is the story he wanted to tell.
And he did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was probably... I thought Artemis and Wade were good characters, or good, well acted at least.
Right.
No, I think
but
they were.
Mark Rylance kind of stole the show as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He did a good job. And if there was any actual emotion in the movie, it did come from him.
Yeah, which was awesome and amazing because he was just this autistic.
Right. He really just straight up, because I don't think the book actually comes out and says that he's autistic, does it?
It actually says he has had Asperger's.
Oh, does it? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it put him
said
him on the spectrum.
Did it? Okay.
And so...
I wasn't sure how
literally put him on the
the
spectrum.
movie did. Whether the book did or not, the movie just said...
So he was just this... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no. I had finished my point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I was about to say.
Well, I guess Jake's led me into the one thing I want to defend, and the one thing that I did like about the movie that basically made the movie for me is I thought that Wade and Artemis were a cute couple, for lack of a better word. Like, it was shallow. There wasn't anything particularly crazily memorable about it, but I thought the little love story and the two characters were just played in a attractive, humane, it's just a nice little thing. I don't need to own the Blu-ray and watch it over and over again. But insofar as I liked the movie, it was because I thought Wade and Artemis basically worked. Yeah. And I didn't think they worked in the book. I hated Artemis in the book. She was so clearly wish fulfillment. She gets all my references, like we made fun of in the episode. That's like why she's cool. The movie went out of its way to try and fix that and not make her just wish fulfillment, at least not as explicitly
narcissistic.
Yeah, it's not as narcissistic. If she is a prize to be won, then it's more of a hero's journey function than it is a character that will make us feel good as lame males in our mommy's basement kind of thing.
I agree. And even the CGI was pretty good with them.
Yeah.
I was engaged with their looks.
And I liked the actors. I liked her especially outside of her normal form as Samantha. I thought they did a nice job with the birthmark. There's a moment where her avatar has the birthmark, which wasn't emotional, but it came the closest that just about anything in the movie did to having a little bit of emotional punch to it. I don't know what else to say about it. There's not much to defend about it unless you guys want to attack it. And then
I'm not going to attack it. I agree.
I just thought it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah.
And it worked for me well enough that I think I liked the movie a little bit better than you guys did, but definitely better than Brandon did. But
I mean, I liked aspects of the movie. Mm-hmm. I overall didn't like the movie, but that can happen. So I liked their characters.
I guess that was enough for me to give it a thumbs up. It's a nice story, a nice little, I hate always saying hero's journey, but he defeated the bad guys. He got the girl. There was some fun special effects. The girl and the guy were attractive performers that did a good job bringing a little emotion to a silly story.
Mark Rylance did a good job as making the arc of Holiday believable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the
realize-
set pieces. I think maybe I liked the set pieces better than you guys did. I actually liked the race. It seemed like the crowd that we went and saw it with, it seemed like everybody was grumpy about the race afterwards. I thought the race was cool.
I didn't like the race.
You didn't like the race? You just thought it was lame?
I didn't like the race because they replaced it with one of the actual best parts of the book.
I agree with you that was dumb to lose that that was one of the better parts of the book.
The Dungeons and Dragons. I was actually looking forward to seeing that Skeleton King and
yeah.
the
them
Dungeons and
playing
Dragons.
joust
Yeah.
against each other. That
It
would
was
have been
pretty
cool.
good.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's why I was grumpy about it. Well, the other thing, and we talked about this, and you made the point that if Jurassic World hadn't come out, there would have been the T-Rex would have paid off more in that race.
We just had a movie that in Jurassic World that the one scene everybody remembers from that is the T-Rex is let out of its paddock, and we have this wish fulfillment, like nostalgic. We hear that T-Rex roar, we see the T-Rex, and then he fights the villain dinosaur, and it's just like what every little boy imagined with his action figures when he bought that Jurassic Park, or when Jurassic Park was first out. So yeah, we actually had that moment. So then seeing the same T-Rex with the same roar wasn't as special in Ready Player One. Yeah,
it's just little things like that. I'm glad you reminded me of the Batmobile. That was pretty fun.
the Batmobile was fun. The Adam West, the 1960s Batmobile.
was that in there?
Yeah.
Hovering over
Somebody
the edge.
had it in the chase or in the race scene.
I think King Kong. It was King Kong knocked it off or something maybe. But so there were fun stuff, and I bet if I did see the movie again, which I don't have any burning
notice
desire to
more.
do so, but I think there's probably a lot of fun little details that it would be fun to watch again. And
To me, what you love about Spielberg is there may be lots of details that you miss or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. But he's going to make sure that he draws your attention to the one that's going to really matter. Or, there just wasn't that for me. But maybe the Shining was that for everybody else. And so maybe I'm just wrong or I just don't have the context. But
yeah, it could be. I don't know.
But it just seems like it's sort of like, what I said earlier, which is like in order to appreciate the references, you're going to have to be like Wade Watts and get it on Blu-ray and go frame by frame.
But there were some
And maybe
weird-
there's an Easter egg in there.
Yeah, probably. You can win $1 billion. Maybe if Spielberg's dead and you can win his fortune. The guy suddenly does Gundam at a certain point.
Yeah,
Might have been a big deal for somebody, not for me at all. I don't really even know exactly what Gundam is.
I don't either.
Gundam Wing. I mean, it's what Toshi or Ichi or whatever that guy's. It's what he.
Dido.
Dido. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the form that he takes when he fights Mechagodzilla. But if the classic Spielberg would have set up that was a thing and let us know about it and made us anticipate it and salivate for it, and then it would happen and it would be like, oh yeah, and it would be so cool. This Spielberg is just like, okay, there's
it
another
goes.
thing. I can tell my animators to do it, and I guess the kids will think it's cool.
Yeah, but that's where. So the whole. So I'm with you that the love story, the characters are good, and I was on board and was hopeful with the rebellion. But the whole third act of this movie just seemed to kind of fall apart. It lost steam. Like none of the stakes that it had tried to set up worked out.
Well, the book didn't have any stakes because they were at Ogden Morrow's house, and no bad guys in the real world were after them.
Yeah,
and
but this one kind of. So even
they tried to solve that problem. You're saying that you don't think they were?
No, I don't think they've succeeded. In the one place they did, they still had it blow up, but they didn't have anybody die. And
Yeah.
the book actually had somebody die.
Yeah, that's true.
So even that, the book did that better.
Well, the other thing about classic Spielberg is that he had a dark streak which he just doesn't have anymore.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't going to kill one of those kids. Like old Spielberg probably doesn't kill a kid because he's sentimental, but he's also the guy that made Temple of Doom and made Raiders of the Lost Ark, which if you haven't seen that movie for a while, folks, it's way darker and more violent than you always. That's one of those movies I always forget, and then I watch it and I'm like, oh, they're just bashing people over the head in this bar, and
the
blood's
bar
coming out of their
scene is
mouth.
one of
It's
those things that you really.
Yeah.
It would get an R rating today, I would think, but let alone the heads exploding and all that stuff that everybody loves. But what was my point?
The third act.
Yeah, it's just there weren't. You never felt like anybody was in danger. The villains were kind of Home Alone villains, and
it didn't have like the Inception risk going on. So it was just, I don't know. I was disappointed. I didn't like the third act of the book either, but they set it up and they tried to fix all the problems, and then it just.
I think the book's arc is better.
The book's arc is better.
That's what I think I'm coming to the conclusion that the arc of the book is better.
In terms of, I may have to disagree with you there, but what do you mean exactly?
If the second act is Wade has to infiltrate IOI because they've got a lockdown on everything. only thing that he can do is basically self-sacrificially in the real world put himself into a slave camp.
Yeah.
And set up a bomb in the oasis that he hopes goes off and have some Indiana Jones style escape from there. And then they go off to Ogmaro's place and they gather everybody together. The bomb better go off. Then they have the fight and everybody's dying and they still have to get in and they still have to pull it off. And then he pulls the bomb that blows everything up and everybody dies anyway, except Wade's got his extra life.
Did he know it was an extra life?
No.
When you describe it that way, it sounds cool, but the book is so poorly done that I just never felt.
I think
any
it's just
attention.
it's just plot that does work better.
Like, I don't like him infiltrating IOH in the book because it's pathetic. Like, his plan works perfectly, goes off without a hitch.
Well,
yeah, no, but it's just
As a plot point, I get what you're saying.
So
like,
here's
it's a
the
good
thing.
plot point, but it's so.
I'm not saying that
fumbled in
the
the
book
book.
is better.
I would
I'm
like the
saying
Wade
that
Watts of the movie doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think the Wade Watts of the movie is more heroic than the Wade Watts of the book. The Wade Watts of the book, he only cares about himself. He's like a stand-in for Ernest Cline. He's obsessed with his winning this prize, his learning. So it's even unbelievable that he learns to care about anyone else, really. His transformation isn't as good as the Wade Watts of the movie.
Yeah.
He's not a hero like the Wade Watts of this movie was.
Not that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I want a more faithful adaptation.
I know.
In terms of characterization. I'm just saying in terms of arc and maintaining some kind of drama and suspense that could really work and drive that third act.
I'm actually
and just let the third act all live in the oasis.
I like them.
I'm actually agreeing with you.
I don't agree
So-
that. I like there being real world stakes. I don't like them going to Ogden Morrow's house and being in fancy things. I think they did right to change that in the movie and have them be in a crappy old van being chased. That was not well done in the movie, but I think that's a better conceit for the ending. To have
Yeah, I don't think
Well,
you have
if you kill a kid in Act 2 and there are real world stakes and Ogden Morrow ends up being able to save 4 out of 5 of them for your final battle in the Oasis, it's still going to feel like there are real world stakes.
Yeah, that's possible.
Or you could even still have that last real world chase scene in the bus and still have what Jake was wanting too.
The infiltration.
The Ogden Morrow is not necessary to that arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked introducing.
Basically, what's necessary to that arc is that, and it's believable with the movie that Wade Watts, because he was the one who wanted to do it,
Right.
he would have done it, sacrificed himself.
Yes.
But probably the problem Spielberg saw was that the way the movie had gone, since they knew who he was, they were going to find out who he was, and they would have probably just killed him.
Right.
Instead of actually putting him
In the camp.
in a holding cell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was something that was an inconsistency they were going to have to deal with. If they could have figured out how to do it, I do think that would have been a better story.
Yes.
Because if it all falls apart, and then I think they realized it fell apart, and they're like, we don't know what to do now.
They weren't going to take the time to set up and let the movie lapse over the length
Yeah.
of time that the book lapses, where he's going to be by himself and
Yeah.
able to. They did the whole facial recognition thing for one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So a lot of things they did actually cut back on a lot of the time too. This all happened really fast.
Well, and it all happened
Well,
in Columbus too, which was
right.
weird. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess everybody important just lives in this one town. Like, they almost should have made it that the rest of the world was blown up or something. If it felt weird, awfully convenient, but they didn't really solve that.
So yeah, so it's weird. So in trying to fix the book, they took away the things that actually kind of worked and didn't fix. But in fixing it, they also showed
On
how
both the book
in
and the
general-
movie, you have the problem that IOH is lame and completely ineffective. And like when Artemis in the movie, she's like hiding behind the guy's couch and there's no particular tension. And then she just like
Yeah.
goes out the door.
walks
and
out the door,
while
yeah.
they're looking the other door. There's just like, I'm a sucker for scenes like that in most movies. And my heart will be in my throat if someone's like in an office and they have to hide because they're not supposed to be there or something. I find that to be one of the most tense
Yeah, it's terrifying.
things in a movie. Easy to relate to. You know, we've all had that moment where we're doing something we're not supposed to and we might get caught, but this movie didn't have any of that tension. So,
No, it was all gone.
yeah.
And then, so all you're left with is this thinly bandwidth wars and all these things that you're supposed to believe build this world for you. It doesn't do it.
Yeah.
One thing I was saying earlier was that what this made me appreciate more was the Star Wars universe because Jake made the point as the villainous prosecutor, but it was still a good point that George Lucas had a fully realized universe. Mm-hmm. And this, I was thinking more about that, and then which helped me realize what I didn't like about the movie.
You were the villainous prosecutor, by the way.
I was the villainous prosecutor. He was the
I was the villainous defense.
I was the villainous prosecutor. I don't know.
I was the
it's all
sleazeball
mixed up.
defense attorney.
He was Atticus Finch,
Yeah.
the good guy.
Per Jake, he was definitely Atticus Finch.
He was definitely Atticus Finch. But yeah, Star Wars, it's a fully realized universe, and it's a consistent universe. And the things that happen in that universe, the Jedi, the Sith, the councils, all these things that exist together in this world, it all makes sense and it works. And it's a world that is fun to see stories happen in. I know on one of the Star Wars episode for the Christmas episode, I said the original trilogy was bad. I'm actually going to take a step back and say maybe it's not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate the fact that those stories work in a way that Ernest Cline's story doesn't work. And so
maybe eventually you'll recant on Ready Player One and say it's your favorite novel.
I don't think I ever will.
Ernest Cline is the new Tolstoy.
So it's helpful. This is like a foil. So it helped me realize that I was grumpy in an unfair way towards Star Wars. Helped me realize that, except my recant. It also helped me realize that The Last Jedi is a legitimately bad movie.
Yeah. Once you accept that Star Wars is worthy of being held to a standard, then The Last Jedi.
Yeah, so if I want to be consistent with a lot of the things I was arguing in the trial, this has helped me come to terms with some of this stuff too. If Spielberg can be the Dickens in a lot of ways was a sentimental schmaltzy writer.
Yeah.
And so Star Wars has the freedom to be sentimental and schmaltzy. Fine. Pop art. Great. Have back Star Wars. It's not as bad as I claimed it was. I was just in a bad mood. Return of the Jedi is bad.
Return of the Jedi really is pretty boring.
And Ready Player One is really bad.
Well, but it's got that part where Chucky kills all those guys. Oh, man.
It's just... like even stories that I'm not crazy about, like Fahrenheit 451, at least that universe still also holds together.
I don't know that it does. We're going to read that book, by the way, guys?
I think
it holds together more than this book does.
Well, the thing about movies that's fascinating to me is that they adapt novels into movies because movies are 2 hours long. They're really pretty short, and they have to work. If you're going to adapt a novel into a movie, you have to work in such broad brushstrokes.
Bradbury wanted...
I was just going to say that we said from the beginning that Ready Player One was a book designed to be made into a movie.
Yes, but the world isn't very... I guess my point is that... I guess when Brandon was talking about Star Wars, what I thought was, man, Star Wars doesn't really give you or show you a lot of its universe, but it just gives you some broad brush strokes so that you understand this is this, this is this, this is this. A few things are able to just beautifully stand in, and then your imagination fills in the rest, and suddenly you have a very lived-in, real-feeling universe.
You know
and
what?
There's just a real beauty and poetry and trick to that Ready Player One doesn't pull off.
They glaze over it at the beginning when they're doing the setup, right? It's part of the exposition, and it's yet a lot of visual exposition going on where this is the oasis, and he's, everybody's like, you see the guy surfing, and then later we're going to come back and we're going to sort of like zoom tour through the oasis. And you remember in the book how he ends up having his own little fortress of solitude, his own little planet, and he's got his different little ships and things, and he goes to different planets to build up his whatever while he's trying to figure out the next thing. If they would have given us about 10 minutes of that, it might have really helped the oasis in the world. But then, I would have wanted to see an X-Wing, and I would have wanted to see lightsabers, and I would have wanted to see something else that was...
You're right, actually, though. What's missing from the movie is, they really needed to not start with an action scene. Star Wars has that... It does start with an big action scene, the original New Hope, but then it's got this long, boring part where Luke is just a farmer on a desert planet, and that's what gives the whole Star Wars series this tactile... It's the brushstroke that helps ground it in something recognizable as reality. If
Luke is not standing in the desert staring at twin suns as the music swells, that movie tanks.
Nobody knows what Star Wars is.
Nobody knows what Star Wars is today.
Agreed.
That one scene is what made that whole movie and franchise.
Yeah. And Ready Player One, in the book, it grounds it by having it as dumb and cliched as it is. And it is dumb and cliched in the book, but he has to go to school. And there's this long section where he's talking to the bullies, and it's really, really lame and cliched, but at least it grounds it, gives you some time to breathe and spend time in the world in a way that's kind of concrete that you can relate to. And then when he starts going on his adventures, you just feel it.
Yep.
That's what the movie really, really needed, didn't it? Just something, whether it was his Fortress of Solitude or school or him just spending more time hanging out with H in their little whatever
chat room
thing. Instead of having the chat room be a big, awesome Iron Giant facility, just make it a recognizable like boys basement kind of place. It just needed a few things like that. And Spielberg's, we're just talking this whole time about how
that's what he's good at.
He's good at.
I think you're right that he just didn't care.
I think when he was in his 30s and 40s making things like Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think he was making those movies for himself. Like this is the movie I want to see. I think now when he makes something like Ready Player One, he does care about it, but it's like, I'm going to make this one for the kids. And he tries to sort of think what people would like. I'm just speculating here. Who knows?
It's like the George Lucas episodes 1, 2, and 3 problem.
Yeah. Like George Lucas obviously isn't interested in seeing big action scenes, but he hands them over to his special effects guys and he does the things he's interested in, which in his case was like the Senate and it's kind of the geopolitical situation of Star Wars, which was weird, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. What this movie was missing was just a sense of time, that time was passing and that this world actually existed and that he had to go to school, that he had friends and that
he had to fit this. He had to, I mean, part of the coolness of that book early on is he's this absolutely normal dweeb. Yeah. And nobody in his classes would guess that he was Parzival.
Yeah, he was supposed to be, what's his name from Willy Wonka? Charlie.
Yeah. And this, he's just already in the race. And I mean, Spielberg he can't help but be better than, he's a talented guy. So the little bits that he does give us, like his aunt and his uncle and his life in the trailers, they aren't bad in the way that they're done. I mean,
they're good, but it's not enough.
The aunt actually has a lot more sympathy than Ernest Cline was prepared to give her in the book just by hiring a sympathetic performer. It's nothing particularly special about it, but it's just Spielberg's a talented guy.
But I think that is, Jake's right. I think that's really what's one of the big things that was missing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted there to be the school.
Yeah, I missed the school.
I wanted there to be this sense that he was just a normal kid that happened to be in this adventure. So there's any of you guys heard of Troll Hunters?
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
On Netflix, it's the Guillermo del Toro series.
No.
It's like an animated thing, right? Kid thing.
It's decent, but it's more like that. It's they're at school, but then there's this adventure happening outside. So.
Well, you think in episode 1, as terrible as that movie is, think about the pod race. We spend all this time like, here's the track, here's the crowd, here's the dust, here's the people showing up, here's the flag bearers coming out. There's just all these things. George Lucas is actually really good for all his terribleness at just making a world feel like a real world. It's like we're not just going to cut straight to the race. Like we're going to have the stupid flag people walk out and the crowd will be cheering their favorites and, you know, people will be trash talking each other over by the stands. And that's what this race in this movie didn't have any of that. You know, you just have to spend some time in some kind of a relatable reality to anchor these big fantasies. And
yeah, you want the world. So what it made me actually admire about Star Wars, to go back to that, and something like Blade Runner or The Matrix, is how these small details, but also just how important it is for this world to be imagined fully before you actually write anything about it. So you have to feel like this world exists.
Right.
And if you just are doing it quickly or you don't have the talent to do it, then the story is going to fall apart. And I do think that, I don't think I really brought this up at all in the trial. It probably would have helped me. But I do think this is probably the biggest weakness, one of the biggest weaknesses of this novel, is it just fails to create a believable universe, which, according to C.S. Lewis, is pretty essential. So to bring him back in, like we always do.
Well, we've spent a long time talking about how dumb this movie is, but I actually had a fun time with it. I don't know why. Maybe I was just in a good mood. I was just happy to be seeing a movie with you guys, and I don't know. I was just feeling forgiving that night. I
had fun taking my wife out.
Yeah.
She had a good time.
Yeah.
We had fun.
Yeah.
I was sitting there all by myself with no wife, and I enjoyed the movie better than either one of you guys did. So what does that say about me? I don't know. Maybe losers need fantasy.
You just have a broader ability to love the world, Nathan.
Yeah. If there's one thing that people on the Bookening know, it's one thing I'm noted for. It's my broad ability to love the world. I don't know. I mean, honestly, folks, maybe I was just in a good mood. I really wanted to like the movie, and then I did. So maybe I'll hate it if I see it again.
I wanted to like the movie, and I wanted to like it well enough to be tempted to see it again today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew coming out of it that I mean, it might be fun. Like when we do Ready Player 2, we'll maybe rewatch it. Or
Yeah.
I don't have any desire to go out of my way to see it.
I wouldn't
again.
go out of my way, but as a reference point, after seeing The Last Jedi, I got out of that movie and I just knew I never wanted to see it again. And I was sad. Like, oh, this is a Star Wars movie. It had some cool parts, but man, the propaganda is too much for me. I don't want to see it again. Black Panther, I actually liked it okay, but I did not ever need to see it again. And then I did see it again just to, favor to a friend kind of thing. So bored through the whole thing, just like did not care, was not engaged at all. Like, life is short. I have work to do. I don't want to be watching Black Panther. Ready Player One to me was much more fun, and I would much rather see it again than either one of those two, just as a reference point. So I don't know what that says. Maybe when I see it, if I do see it again, I'll realize, oh, all your love for it was misplaced, and this is actually pretty stupid, and Jake and Brandon were right to not be as excited about it. But
I don't have those
Infinity War, all my hopes and
what?
dreams rest on you.
yes,
Infinity. Oh yeah,
Infinity War.
that'll be good.
Hopefully that'll blow all the things I just mentioned out of the water.
I don't have those reference points. And one thing I did tell my wife in the car is I think I could go the rest of my life without ever seeing that movie again.
Ready Player One.
Yeah, and not feeling bad about it. I have no desire to see it again.
I don't know.
What could get me interested in watching it again is when it comes out on Blu-ray or even before then, and somebody cracks some kind of code and there is an actual Easter egg hidden in the film, and
Yes.
Yeah.
and it's actually all of those little scenes with details packed into them really matter, and it's really worth paying attention to. And
Right.
there are big payoffs, and
That'll be fun.
if that happens, then everything I've said tonight goes out the window.
Oh yeah, especially if I could win $1 trillion.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, Klein hit a Easter egg in his book, and he gave away a DeLorean.
Yes. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something. We did all sit through the credits to the very end to see if there was a credit cookie. I don't know whose fault that was.
We really irritated the cleaning staff.
Yeah, this cleaning staff was standing there, but we decided, somebody said they thought there was a credit cookie, and so we all decided to sit there like morons and wait for it, and then there was nothing.
It was the longest credits
Yeah, there was a lot of credits.
it's the longest credit since The Return of the King.
Since the Return of the King.
Those credits are long.
Well, those are credits like thank all the fans from the J.R. Tolkien Club or something like that, so they are long. But all right, so the verdict is we all kind of agreed the movie wasn't everything that it could be. Brandon's a little bit on the grumpy side about it. I'm a little bit on the happy side. It might just be because of something I ate that agreed with me. Jake wanted to feel the Spielberg magic and fall in love with the art of cinema again, and he didn't.
It's too bad.
Which is too bad, and I'm not being sarcastic when I say that's what you wanted and that's what you didn't get, and it is too bad. Spielberg, why don't you want to make Spielberg movies anymore? I'll tell you what I'd like is to see not Spielberg, but somebody like Rian Johnson, who did do a good job directing the heck out of that terrible Last Johnson, do Ready Player 2. Somebody that really wants to have fun in the world, that enjoys the references in a way that Spielberg doesn't. Like, somebody that's excited, like, oh, cool, I can have the Ninja Turtles do something.
Hey man,
Someone
that
was
would have made
saying
it the
that
Ghostbusters.
I missed Ninja Turtles.
Apparently they were in there.
Somebody was telling me they were in there.
I think I saw them, but I thought they were Battletoads because I saw the Battletoads like 9 times, and I think probably one of them was actually the Ninja Turtles. But
hey, apparently anything can get made into a movie nowadays. Rampage.
If they would have, I wish they would have. I mean, if we would have gotten like a Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd cameo or anything from.
I was hoping for a Jack Nicholson cameo.
I was hoping for a Jack Nicholson, even if it was
like CGI
Jack Nicholson,
Grand Moff
like
Tarkin
exactly.
style.
I was thinking the same thing. I was really hoping that would happen. I was also hoping for CGI Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones to pop up somewhere in like an ad. Like that's the kind of thing that you could totally do.
Mm-hmm.
Is you could totally have a CGI. You could like those ads that were just like nondescript people that were with the futuristic stuff, because everything's so 80s that you could have had Indiana Jones,
Michael Keaton's Batman.
You could have had Michael Keaton as Batman. You could have had Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Right.
You could have had anything. You could have had, there's just so much you could have done.
Yeah.
give us Ferris Bueller, for goodness sake, even.
Well, what's absolutely clear is that Spielberg
You're
actually...
going to kill him.
Yeah.
Give us Ali Sheedy.
Now, I did read somewhere that The Breakfast Club is in that movie, and I didn't see him. So I actually do kind of want to watch the movie again just to catch all that stuff, because I think it would be fun. It would be like, I don't know where The Breakfast Club was, but apparently they're in there somewhere.
Are they in there, or are they just referenced in that one scene?
The thing I read made it sound like they're actually in there, but maybe not. I don't know.
I'm sure soon enough we'll have a whole list.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I want to, when I take over the ACES, I'll make every school like the school in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah. Somebody that actually loves the era needs to do it. Somebody that's just like excited to, like, they could have even just done Superman and Batman, and it wouldn't even had to be like a specific one, but just...
You know who should do it?
Who's that?
The Duffer Brothers.
No. Theory.
Yes.
The reason why Krennic is a weird character in the film is because he's a stand-in for Spielberg.
Huh.
He's a grumpy technology and nerd challenged guy that has teams of young people helping him be cool in ways that he's
trying to be cool for the kids, and he just can't do it.
Right.
And actually, he's selfishly motivated and is grumpy about this whole thing, and just sees in himself a desire to exploit it and destroy it, and then comes to the end and can't pull the trigger.
And that's a good theory, man. That's the Easter egg, maybe.
It was probably subconscious. That's some good stuff there.
Plus, the sound went out in our screening, so we don't know what Krennic actually says to the woman when he gets into the car handcuffed, and he says something to his accomplice, and I figured it was probably just like the Scooby-Doo. We would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those kids, but maybe it's something really poignant given your
You'll have to let us know.
Yeah, let us write us in, folks. All right, Brandon.
Phone home.
Yeah. Does this movie get the LSOA, the coveted LSOA?
No. Ogden Morrow's George Lucas.
Oh, man.
Yeah, a guy that he stopped being friends with. Yeah.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
This is better than the movie.
We're going to have to see it again so we can confirm your theory.
I'll just let you guys tell me.
Coveted LSOA, Brandon.
No.
Sounds like it's a big fat no.
No, but if people want to see it, go ahead.
For those who like this kind of thing, is this the kind of thing they'll like?
Sure.
If somebody thinks they're going to like this movie, will it?
Yes,
will they like
and I
it?
don't, as grumpy as I am, I don't hold it against you. So go see it.
Jake, same questions?
I think that if you're the kind of person who thinks you might like this movie, the only way to tell if you're going to like the movie is to watch it.
To go see the movie.
So you should just do that.
Yeah.
And there's no reason not to.
If you want to know content-wise, parents, they recreate a very famous moment from The Shining, and they do it more tastefully than The Shining does, but it does involve some partial nudity, as the PG-13 thing says.
Surprising partial nudity, and then surprising...
There's some sensuality between Artemis and what's-his-face that goes a little farther.
It's alluded to in the trailer, and it actually does go a little... It goes farther than that.
Yes.
And then there's also
Possibility of the last scene being.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Could be. You might be right. I
think I'm right.
I was pretty tired. But
Yeah, and then the zombie stuff is kind of gross too. If you're in, I mean, just in terms of.
Yeah, there's some zombies. It wasn't anything that stuck out to me, but I'm just seen a lot of zombies in my time. You don't like the zombies?
It was gross.
Yeah, it was gross.
I thought they were fun gross though, not like gross. I'll give it a LSOA. I liked it. I thought I had fun with it. Be warned about the stuff we just warned you about 2 seconds ago. It's not a magical new Spielberg classic, and it's too bad that it's not. It's too bad that he doesn't care. It's too bad they didn't just give it to J.J. Abrams or somebody that probably would have done a better job. Damn, man, J.J. Abrams.
He may have done a better job.
Yeah.
He probably, I mean, he would have actually tried to do it like Spielberg would have tried to have, like people would have wanted Spielberg to have done it. He would have tried to.
Right. I don't think he's usually very sophisticated or tasteful in the way that he apes his mentors, but you don't want Spielberg, you want somebody that worships Spielberg, and so J.J. Abrams does fit that mold. I don't know who else I would say should have directed it. Maybe...
Well, you already said Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson actually is who I think would have done a great job if he could keep his dumb politics out of it.
He would have done something stupid.
He probably would have done something stupid, but...
Brad Bird might have had fun with it.
Brad Bird
would have been great.
Brad Bird would have been great. Brad Bird's weird philosophy that we talked about on the Sound of Fantasy probably actually would have he would have been
Jives
able to
really
do something
well.
interesting
Yeah, he would've-
within this universe.
Yeah.
Like, what is the evil of? He would have delved into what makes Krennic, and whether that's there's something sympathetic about that. Yeah, Brad Bird definitely should have done this. Maybe Ready Player 2 will be a Brad Bird joint.
Maybe.
Probably not though, but that's our recommendation.
I think it should have been the Coen brothers.
Yeah, the Coen brothers would be great.
What they should have done is hired the Wachowskis.
Yeah, the Wachowski
Yeah,
siblings.
That's it.
Oh, brother. All right, folks. Anything else to say about this film, Jake?
No.
Anything else to say about this film, Brandon?
No, I'm done with it.
You don't have to think about Ready Player One, Brandon. This is my gift to you. You can put Ready Player out of your mind for another couple of years now until Ready Player 2.
He's going to write it faster than that.
Yeah, probably. It'll come out next month.
I bet you there's a date, and I'm going to look it up right now.
I bet you there is. He doesn't seem like the type that labors over his
He's got to spend
craft.
so much time getting every word.
Yeah.
Joycean.
Whoa.
He ain't no Ishiguro.
No, he ain't no Ishiguro.
And hey, Ishiguro, here we come.
Yeah, Brandon, the happier days are ahead.
Hey, whatever remains of him.
Yeah. We got a date on Ready Player 2, Jake?
This is just an interview from February where Klein's saying he's working on it, but that he's focused on Armada.
Armada's already published, right?
Yeah.
It's being made into a movie already.
We're not reading Armada.
You're putting your foot down, huh? The Lookening was written by Nathan Alderson, produced by Brandon Chastain,
Produced by me.
edited by Jacob Menzel,
Performed by Nathan.
directed by Steven Spielberg himself, actually.
Wow. Hey, Steven.
Hey, hey Brandon.
Hey, it's George Lucas, too. Hey, guys. Yo, Steven.
Hi, George.
Sorry for that falling out we had.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Hey, what was up
everybody.
with Ghost Holiday? I don't understand what the point was there at the end.
I think in the part where the sound cut out, we found out something about that, maybe. I don't know.
Well, maybe we did, but I think...
Were we supposed to think he was a ghost? Like
yeah,
something
well, I
supernatural?
think we were supposed to think that his consciousness is...
inside the game, like he's still alive somehow.
Or was until he had peace of mind about the Oasis being handed
man.
over.
Who knows?
Who knows? Good night.